In 2004, we moved from Jerome, Idaho to Pendleton, Oregon. And we purchased a house, which meant that we no longer lived in a parsonage, and if there were plumbing problems, we couldn't call the trustees. The downstairs of the house, part of it, was this indestructible space that we affectionately called the bunker. Our kids could skate down there, they could play games, they could watch movies together, and we didn't, as parents, really have to worry too much about them. Well, my folks in Milton Freewater had a very strange or well-developed sense of humor, depending on how you look at things like this. For the first Christmas that we were there, they just thought that it would be a real hoot to give 4 preachers' kids the game Trouble. The name says it all, right? Well, it's a fun game. So one Sunday afternoon, I come home from Milton Freewater. All the kids are in the bunker having a great time. They're playing Trouble. They're watching Cheaper by the Dozen. And John, the child that we've had the longest, who's had to give up the most of any child we have ever had in our care or in our family, says, "Dad, we need more kids." Is there room for one more? For the least? For the lost? For the lonely? For the leper? For the other? When a national day of Thanksgiving was established on the 4th Thursday of November, it was not because the 4th Thursday in November was a particularly thankful day. It was intentionally chosen precisely because of its arbitrariness to remind us to say thanks on a daily basis for the blessings God heaps on our lives. But for Christians, every Sunday is a Thanksgiving feast day. Every Sunday at worship, we give thanks for the greatest event ever to touch all of creation. The greatest opening in human history, in the open tomb, testifying to the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. Every Sunday is Thanksgiving Sunday. Every Sunday dinner is a Thanksgiving dinner. I was talking to the kids about how do you know when it's Sunday? When I was their age and a little bit younger, I always knew that it was Sunday for about 3 reasons. Mom was either fixing fried chicken for lunch or a roast. That was the giveaway. And there were clothes laid out that I had to put on. I hated the bow tie stuff. The sailor suit wasn't so bad. At least it wouldn't get you beat up on the church playground. In a Sabbath-observant, church-giving family, Sunday was the one day that we as a family planned to spend together. First at church, because Mom sang in the choir and Dad was the church treasurer. And then at home. And then we might go for a ride in the afternoon and go see some relatives, or just go for a ride. with a full house and expectant stomachs. Sunday dinner was a meal guaranteed to offer the magic combination of old favorites and once-a-week specialties. I bet every family had its own Sunday dinner traditions. Sunday dinner was usually the time you could count on your ethnicity showing up on a plate. Along with Sunday dinner, there was also, in some families, another standard at the Thanksgiving feast: an empty chair. There are church members here who are going to be celebrating their first Thanksgiving with an empty chair because of loss. But in earlier traditions, the chair was placed there with the hopes that Elijah would come. The empty chair was there for the unannounced but welcome guest as well. Families with that empty chair stand at the ready to be filled or gazed on. But at the heart of their gathering is the spirit that there's always room for one more. Even if there wasn't physically an empty chair, there was an extra plate or extra portions should an unexpected visitor show up. Yet as families have moved geographically apart, it has become increasingly challenging for everyone to gather at Grandma's for Thanksgiving Day. As families have moved emotionally farther and farther apart through divorce and remarriages or different lifestyles, it seems like a better choice to maintain some kind of safe distance from one another. But no matter how Thanksgiving is celebrated, no matter how many are hosted for the holiday feast, the tradition of the empty, expectant chair commends itself for our consideration, if not physically, spiritually. Fortunately, our National Thanksgiving Day is somewhat less commercialized than other holidays and celebration. However, the holiday itself is becoming like a great divide separating our American culture from the haves and from the have-nots. For the haves, Thanksgiving is the starting gun for the first frenetic round of shopping. Some people think that our world is divided into baseball season and football season. Not so much. I think there's a shopping season too. Those who have even more splurge to celebrate this long Thanksgiving weekend. When we lived in Idaho, we were about 1 hour south of Sun Valley. But Jerome was the home for people who provided service in Sun Valley. One of the members of my church had to greet a jet that was flown in every year from New York so that she could take kosher food off of the plane and deliver it to the home. Because on the Sabbath, they can't shop and they can't work. And in Sun Valley, there probably aren't any kosher grocery stores. But that weekend was also when the Schwarzeneggers came to town. The movie stars and the politicians came out from Hollywood and Washington, D.C. It was a weekend for the haves. For the have-nots, Thanksgiving marks a new beginning as well. In the have-not culture, Thanksgiving is the first disappointment of the upcoming holiday season. For the lucky ones, it's a paper plate meal served cafeteria style at a church or a mission. The food is nourishing. The spirit is welcoming. What happened here Thursday night is the best of the best, though. It was festive. There were decorations. People stayed and enjoyed each other's company. It was not a mad rush. It was the best of the best. And I want to thank all of you who served that meal, because you showed what it's like to be a Christian community, to be welcoming, to provide service, to care, to treat people with dignity. One of the most disappointing things about the have-not Thanksgiving is there aren't any leftovers to nibble on. No leftover family members to spend the long weekend with. No leftover feelings of security that the haves have at Thanksgiving. But there is also far more who are desperately poor, so utterly destitute that even the barest essentials for existence are beyond their grasp. The only equitable thing about this division is that it seems to cross all ethnic and racial lines, both black and white America. A small but growing percentage of the population is amassing a fortune, while a small but ever-growing number is amassing misery. There are too few Warren Buffetts and Bill Gates, but there are many more abandoned babies with AIDS and homeless 12-year-olds trying to find cardboard boxes. Extended families of 20 crammed into one-room apartments. Elderly men and women trying to choose between medication or nutrition. The great capitalist nation which God has blessed such bounty is failing to provide minimal means for survival to an ever-growing segment of our population. This name may not be familiar to you, but you will come to know it today. Adam Smith was a Scottish philosopher who wrote a treatise called The Wealth of the Nations. It is that document and his own personality that makes him to be considered the father of modern economics and a strong proponent of free trade. Even Adam Smith would be shocked at the ways governments in our day and time, our nation chief among them, have abnegated responsibility for meeting the most basic needs of the most vulnerable. Where are the empty chairs? Where are the extra portions? When did we decide to shut our hearts and find there is no more love to give, no more bounty to share, no more fellowship to extend? Why is it that we can find room for one more holiday party, room for one more piece of turkey, room for one more car in the mall parking lot, room for one more present hidden in the closet? Room for one more charge on the credit card. Room for one more blouse or shirt. Today is the last Sunday of the Christian year. The message which leads us to this new year that begins next Sunday is that God sends one among us to increase our capacity, to make room in our lives to discover how much we are loved and to demonstrate that love to others. To realize all of the generous ways God blesses us and to share freely and generously as we have received. To know that God invites and welcomes us to the empty chair. That God always, always, always makes room for us. It's Jesus who says to His closest followers, I go to prepare a place for you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and even me. There's no exclusion. What will it take to make room for one more on our need to visit list? One more personal note on a Christmas card? One more hour to volunteer work to serve this community or this church or a mission beyond us? Room for one more person in our hearts. What are we willing to do? Where are we willing to go? How much will we give to transform one person, one community, one creation, into who we are being transformed to become? Be careful how you answer that question. It will change everything. Amen.